Hi everyone, I'm Oleg Krishtopa, and this is a story for adults. Today we'll discuss the main Kremlin meme, Rib, the world's most famous revolutionary and, surprisingly, the beloved son of Angola. Legends portray him as a kind grandfather who adored children. No, not that Vladimir, but this one. He's believed to have cared only for the proletariat's welfare and revolution. Oddly, fervent communists never mention Lenin's bank robberies, polyamory, brothel visits, or founding of concentration camps. His actual life is far more intriguing and colorful than commonly thought, and not kid-friendly due to its sexual content. If you haven't subscribed to this adult story yet, now's the time. We're starting the tale of Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov Lenin. It's hard to imagine someone further from the working class, laborers and peasants. Throughout his life, Lenin barely worked at all. Born into a wealthy noble family, his father was an imperial official, ranking as a general in the army. The USSR rarely discussed the Ulyanov family's origins, especially his grandfather Esrul Blank, a baptized Jew who proposed mandatory prayers for the emperor in synagogues. This was required in all synagogues across the Russian Empire. His grandmother was half German, half Swedish. Vladimir Ilyich had Kalmyk and even Ukrainian roots. But when Ilyich became a legend, his nationality was changed to the party-approved version, I'm Russian. When the future leader was 15, his father suddenly died, and the eldest, Alexander, fell in with a bad crowd and, instead of studying, decided to kill the Tsar. One-year-old Alexander was hanged, and his brother Volodya Ulyanov vowed revenge. He followed his brother's path and joined a revolutionary group. Then, everything went as expected. Typical university expulsion, secret meetings in safe houses. The young Ilyich stood out among other revolutionary teens for his radicalism. I'd like to make an official statement. I'm very angry. No joke. When famine struck the Volga region in the 1890s, Volodya Ulyanov fought those feeding the peasants. He saw hunger as a powerful tool for change. Lenin united popular Marxist groups into a working-class liberation alliance. They began propaganda among workers on how to overthrow the autocracy without much success. But this impressed the revolutionary comrades. Apolinaria Yakubova was the one who tried her best to win Ulyanov's affection. Kubochka, as Vladimir called her, worked as a teacher in evening classes. Ulyanov fell head over heels for the workers, but Apolinaria wasn't impressed by the small, balding, jobless revolutionary. The future proletariat leader spitefully started an affair with her best friend, Nadezhda Krupskaya. Soviet myths describe Krupskaya as almost ugly, but in her youth she was quite an attractive noblewoman, somewhat resembling actress Scarlett Johansson. And she was also in love with Ulyanov. Less than a year after the Liberation Alliance began, police caught the rebels. Ulyanov is exiled to the Siberian village of Shushenskoye. The only person willing to follow him is the loyal, though unloved, Krupskaya. They marry, even have a ceremony, as only an official wife can accompany an exile. Lenin's life in Shushenskoye is described in Soviet biographies as unbearably hard. But here's what he writes to his mother. Here, too, everyone noticed I've gained weight, tanned, and look like a true Siberian. That's what hunting and rural life do. His widowed mother, a high-ranking official's wife, sends money. Servants manage the household, while Krupskaya's mother-in-law spoils them with delicacies. Ulyanov takes long walks and writes about the coming revolution. At night, Krupskaya diligently transcribes his writings and handles his correspondence, but falls ill, losing and gaining weight rapidly. When Lenin's exile ends before Krupskaya's, he quickly flees abroad without telling her where to look. Months later, Krupskaya finds her beloved in Munich and forgives him. In exile, the future leader grows no closer to the proletariat. He hides from Tsarist police in Europe's priciest cities, London, Zurich, Paris, frequenting brothels everywhere. We'll be like Lenin, tireless in our work, simple in our ways. His radicalism fuels frequent outbursts of uncontrolled anger. He urges supporters back home to pour boiling water on soldiers and sulfuric acid on police. Yet Lenin is usually pragmatic enough to plan a bank robbery. And quite successfully at that. In 1907, Bolshevik militants rob a bank in Helsinki. The following year, Lenin plans a more serious operation. The robbery of the National Bank in Tiflis. A 29-year-old leads the operation. Joseph Drugashvili, the future Stalin. The Bolsheviks make off with a staggering sum of over $170,000. 40 people die, but who's counting? Next, Bolsheviks attack a postal train at Miaz station, stealing 25 kilograms of gold. Lower-ranking comrades, meanwhile, rob post offices, station ticket offices, and even liquor stores. Western-style politics finds no support in the RSDLP party, especially after dozens of members were jailed for laundering stolen rubles from the Tiflis heist. Lenin himself sees extremism as acceptable as long as it serves the revolution. Lenin was a mushroom, and not just a mushroom, he was... Caught up in party disputes, Lenin missed the 1905 Russian Revolution, returning to exile in Paris where he finds another love. Inessa Armand's life is a true melodrama. At 19, she's wooed by young textile heir Alexander Armand. She marries him. She has 4 kids, then at 27 leaves him, pregnant by his younger brother. Vladimir Armand was only 18 at the time. For subversive activities, they're both exiled. They flee to Paris, where Vladimir dies of tuberculosis in Inessa's arms. Lenin is captivated by Inessa's beauty. For a while, they even lived 3 to an apartment. Krupskaya runs the office. Armand translates Lenin's works to French. Letters reveal Lenin's betrayal. "I'd kiss you 1,000 times," he writes. As Lenin juggles love, Russia overthrows the Tsar. becomes a republic, Lenin seizes his chance. At 47, his lifelong dream of leading a revolution is within reach. He's ready for any wild scheme. He considers hot air balloons or posing as a deaf-mute Swede. The revolutionary spirit hasn't faded. Germany, at war with Russia, aids the Bolsheviks to destabilize. Lenin, his wife, mistress, and others return by sealed train. This leads many to suspect Lenin as a German spy. At each station, he goes out to rally people wearing a fashionable European bowler hat. Only in Petrograd does he change it to a proletarian cap, to be more like the workers. This cap later became his essential accessory, in monuments and jokes alike. Once, Krupskaya sewed Lenin a cap with a hidden compartment, where she promptly hid the plan for an armed uprising. Upon returning home, Ilich declares a course for a new revolution. His party colleagues think Lenin has gone mad, as the revolution just happened. In reality, he understands perfectly well, especially that the Bolsheviks cannot win the elections to the newly formed parliament, the Constituent Assembly. Lenin tries to exploit the atmosphere of unrest and attempts to seize power by force in July 1917. It fails then. Bolshevik printing presses are destroyed, detachments disarmed, and Lenin and Zinoviev themselves flee to Finland, where they live in a hut in disguise. Lumberjacks. Lenin's hut in Razliv marks the museum complex's 90th anniversary. This seems to be the end for the Bolsheviks. Not so fast. Lavra Kornilov's troops are marching on Petrograd. The provisional government pardons all political opponents. Lenin secretly returns to the capital, promoting the idea of an uprising. After Aurora's legendary salvo, Leninists easily capture key buildings. Bolsheviks, with little support, established themselves in the capital. Post-coup, Lenin and Krupskaya move to the Moscow Kremlin. He's elated, finally holding the long-awaited power. His supposed Spartan modesty was just for show. Post-revolution, he rides in luxury cars and orders a Rolls-Royce. It was custom-made for Lenin in a single copy. Inessa Armand is nearby, housed across from the Kremlin. Now she heads the party's women's department and writes about traditional family as a relic of the past. Krupskaya holds a more modest post, chairing a subcommittee under the Education Committee. Lenin has little time for both women, as he's preoccupied with eliminating many. Former Emperor Nicholas II and his family, including servants, are executed in Yekaterinburg. This marks the start of a great terror, targeting not just former enemies, but fellow revolutionaries too. In Ukraine, terror began with the Russian invasion in early 1918. In Kiev alone, 500 were killed in a month. As uprisings spread across the former empire, Lenin officially reinstates the death penalty. For those deemed suspicious, Lenin invents concentration camps. Family members of military specialists from the former Russian Imperial Army are sent there. After an assassination attempt on Lenin, terror becomes official state policy. They're shooting all former police officers, priests, and activists of all parties except the Bolsheviks. They consider anyone from the bourgeois class as enemies. Historians estimate about 2 million died in Bolshevik repressions from 1917 to 22. Ironically, Lenin signs a death warrant with his lover, Inessa Armand. When doctors suspect TB, he urges her to the Caucasus, not Europe as she wanted. Inessa returns to Moscow in a coffin. She died of cholera on the way and was buried in the Kremlin wall. It's hard to choose between Crimea's coast, Russia's plains, Caucasus Mountains, or Carpathian Hills. Soon after, Lenin suffers the first of 3 strokes. What disease killed Lenin? Nearly 100 years on, documents about his illness remain classified. One theory suggests it was syphilis. The medicine he received was typically used to treat that disease. According to the official version, it was atherosclerosis. The disease progressed rapidly. In 18 months, it turned the Red Emperor into a living corpse, unable to write, speak, or understand what was happening in his own empire. In his final year, he was completely removed from party affairs. Even no one visited him. Only the ever-faithful Nadezhda Krupskaya remained by his side till the end. Her only request after the leader's death was not to turn him into an icon, but to remember him as he was. But neither she nor the deceased were taken into account anymore. Share your thoughts on Lenin in the comments, like the video, subscribe to History for Adults, and consider supporting us on Patreon or with donations. See you next week.